I was 16 years old and born into a practicing Catholic family. One Saturday in January 1982, I was walking to church to attend Mass. I was very disappointed to not be allowed to go to a dance party with a friend. I had just left her house, saying this prayer inwardly: Lord, you see what this sacrifice is costing me. Make it at least so that it's not in vain. I crossed a bridge and came to an intersection, where I entered the crosswalk. The last image I saw was the horrified face of the driver in the car. Simultaneously, I heard a terrifying sound of brakes. I told myself, I'm going to die. I flew over the vehicle and was dragged under the wheels of the car behind that one. At that moment, I saw the scene from above, in 360-degree spherical vision, but without realizing that this scene was about me. I saw disturbed onlookers, a crowd, and heard the shouts and howls. I was thinking, why are they getting disturbed? Then I moved and saw my parents run up to the bridge. I said to myself, why is Mom in slivers? She looks distraught. There's something bad going on. Oh hey, there's a wrecked car and some feet sticking out. Then I saw a young man I knew who was watching. I was able to tell him afterwards that I knew he was there on that day, and I accurately described how he was dressed. I was then suddenly sucked into a luminous tunnel. I saw an immense light. I moved toward the light, feeling intense happiness and a fullness and peace I had never known. I felt my soul expand so much that it felt like it encompassed the whole universe. It was wonderful as I was bathed in universal love. There were multitudes of people, but I couldn't see any faces. Instead, I felt them. All my senses were heightened in an extraordinary way. At that moment, I never wanted to go back or to leave this happiness. Then a magnificent lady, who was dressed in a luminous, white dress, was standing in front of this great halo of light. I was sucked into this light. This woman was very beautiful, but above all because of the kindness that I saw in her smile and the way she looked at me. I knew I was loved. I thought then that it was my grandmother who had passed away shortly before this experience. She seemed to be fully listening to the person behind her whom I call the luminous star. I wanted to move forward, but she stopped me by waving me back. It was a very painful rejection that stayed with me for several years. I insisted, without using words, that I wanted to stay with her. Words weren't necessary. She listened to the luminous star who seemed to speak to her, but I couldn't hear it. Then she told me, "You still have things to do on earth. You must go back." At that moment, I saw, as in a kaleidoscope, a kind of flashback movie showing all the moments of my life where I had not loved enough. There were some very concrete situations, but I can't remember exactly. What I remember is that all of those moments were like hot mud thrown in my face. It was very painful, so I begged God to stop this torture. I made a last prayer in what I thought was the kingdom of the dead. If you save my life, I promise to make up for all these moments and to love more. At that moment, I opened my eyes and saw the stretcher bearers place me in the vacuum mattress. I was dazed and didn't speak. The police and firefighters told me that I should have died under the circumstances. They couldn't believe that I only had a few broken bones, bruises, and head trauma. For 2 years, I had nightmares upon hearing the sound of the brakes. But each time, like a reassuring hand, the memory of the lady soothed me. Then I wrote a note to my mother, who told me that from what I had written her, she thought that I had seen not my grandmother, but the Virgin Mary. I couldn't tell anyone else, as I feared that I would be mocked, except I did tell my husband 10 years later. This brief moment of a few seconds is unforgettable. It helped me greatly in the following years to endure significantly painful ordeals. I had another serious accident that resulted in multiple transplant operations and 1 year of rehabilitation. I experienced the loss of our first baby. I had 2 acute pancreatitis attacks 2 years apart during the period of postpartum. I had several hospitalizations in intensive care. I have experienced 5 births and the departure of my grandfather, and then of my father. Before this experience, my life was a black and white movie. Afterwards, it was a movie in color. Each encounter and the words of the gospel took an unexpected meaning in light of this experience. My faith was strengthened. I even thought I was called to religious life. Then I met my husband, who also had an intense inner life. I understood that we would be judged on love, as St. John of the Cross says, and that our life is only a trivial passage, but especially it is not real life. True life is blissful eternity, but we can begin to live this eternity right now. As I understood a few years later, it is no longer necessary to die to know or relive this experience. By loving here on earth, we explore the heaven of our soul and live the communion of saints in the anticipation of the kingdom of God. I was able to relive those brief moments in the slums of Calcutta in 1987-88. I felt the sweetness of an extraordinary harmony among children who were dying of hunger. They understood what true life really is. I also relived this experience during certain Eucharistic communions. Each Eucharist brings me closer to those who have left. Finally, 7 years ago, during another experience of being comforted, while discouraged, I was driving my car. These experiences, that for me are signs from heaven, have strengthened my faith. I am now 54 years old, a committed Catholic, mother of 5 children, ages 13 to 26. I have a traveling companion in the form of a luminous being, the God of life, who is always with me.